So xerophytes are adapted to arid conditions and they have lots of adaptations to reduce water loss. So we'll just go through them. It's a lot easier than halophytes. Xerophytes have biochemical, structural, and physiological adaptations to arid conditions. Remember, biochemical is enzymes. Physiological is a response to a particular stimulus, and structural is always there. So if we talk about biochemical, that's your heat stress proteins that denature, they sacrifice themselves so they prevent your real enzymes from denaturing. Right? You also have adaptations in photosynthesis that you did last year. Remember the C4 and CAM plants? The C4 plants, the problem there is C3 plants use an enzyme or a compound called rubisco, but rubisco, when it becomes in contact with high temperatures, so it starts making an unhelpful product that can never be turned into glucose when the temperatures are high. But for a C3 plant, it doesn't care because it's very rarely going to be in hot conditions. But a C4 plant and CAM plants, they do use rubisco, but they don't use it immediately. They use a different protein called PEP, and PEP makes an intermediary called oxaloacetate. And then the oxaloacetate is taken to the vascular bundle sheath cells, where it is then exposed to rubisco and turned into sugar. So that's what we call a spatial solution. A CAM plant, it has a temporal solution in that it opens its stomata at night to get the carbon dioxide. It still has PEP to make oxaloacetate. It uses a Calvin cycle to make the sugar. Okay. Structural adaptations are to do with the stomata and the leaf. So the best one is the marram grass, which is in that mind map that I made for you earlier. Marram grass has a number of adaptations. First of all, it rolls the underside of the leaf. So the underside of the leaf is in the inside of the curl, and the chamber on the inside of the curl becomes very, very humid and reduces the osmotic gradient, therefore reducing transpiration. It also has sunken stomata, which means the stomata are at the bottom of a stomatal crypt. So it's a crypt is this compartment, I guess, that down the very bottom is the two guard cells, and because it's in the stomatal crypt, which is super humid anyway, then on top of that it has trichomes, which are the hairs that again trap the air, making it even more humid. And so the osmotic gradient is next to nothing. These marram grass will lose next to no water through transpiration because the water is kept in the structure that is the curled leaf. Okay. Then you can regulate when your stomata are open. We spoke about that just then with C4 plants. Open them in the morning and the evening. They avoid the heat of the day. And so sclerophylls, like gum trees, sclerophyll means hard leaf, hang vertically, so vertical hanging leaves. So when the sun hits the leaf in the hottest part of the day, there's next to no surface area available for the sun to hit. All right, so they open up their stomata in the morning and the evening. You can have smaller leaves. If you've got a smaller leaf, you're going to have less stomata. You can have fewer leaves, therefore less stomata. You can have no leaves, like a cactus. The spine on a cactus is a modified leaf. But because it's a spine, there are no stomata on those spines. But then they have small breaks in their stem called lenticels that are used for the same sort of thing. You can have succulents, which means you've got special water-holding tissues inside your plant stems that absorb water rapidly and then release it slowly. That's why if you get an agave or a cactus or an aloe vera and you squeeze it, you can squeeze water out of it because you've got the tissue is called succulent tissue. You can have a waxy cuticle. A waxy cuticle is a waxy layer on the outside of the leaf, above the upper and the lower epidermis. And what wax stops the water molecules leaving from between the epidermal cells. You can change your leaf color. So darker leaves will absorb more light. There are ones called like a saltbush that's actually a grey color, all right, to reflect sunlight and stop getting so hot. You can drop your leaves in winter. Contrary to common belief, you do actually lose a lot of water in winter. In summer, you lose next to no water through, well, not next to no, you lose less water in summer through your lungs than you do in winter.
Why?
Well, in winter, there's cold air outside, you breathe in cold air, you warm it up, and warm air holds more water, and then you breathe it out, and that's that when the mist comes out in winter, that's water coming out as an aerosol.
Oh, but
In summer, it doesn't as much. You lose a lot of water.
But sweat.
Yeah, no, but there's a lot of other things going on.
Right.
But in winter, what I'm saying is, you might be unaware that you lose water through your lungs in winter when you would think you wouldn't because it's not very hot. But you breathe in cold air, you warm it up, and then you breathe out the water vapor. So you do actually lose a lot of water in winter as well. But in a plant, that's called deciduous plants. They drop their leaves in winter because it's not worth. They absorb all of their nutrients and then they drop their leaves because it's just not worth having a leaf in winter, especially in the snow, because water, when it freezes, forms a 3D structure that can shatter cells. So it's just not worth having them. Okay? So you're just trying to reduce transpiration in xerophytes.